Greetings to friends from Africa, Asia and the Pacific, Europe and the Middle East, and the Americas. I am Harold D. Weaver, Jr. of the Black Quaker Project, an outreach and in-reach ministry of Wellesley Friends Meeting of New England Yearly Meeting of Friends. I come to you on behalf of both my ministry and friend Nozizwe Madlala-Routledge, who co-developed this presentation you will hear today. I will now share with you 3 queries addressing our major topics for discussion. 1, what is retrospective justice? 2, how can we as Quakers use retrospective justice to address historical injustice? 3, why should Quakers take action now to implement retrospective justice? Query number 1, what is retrospective justice? Drawing on the strong ethical foundation of the 2006 Brown University report, Slavery and Justice, we define retrospective justice as an attempt to administer justice years after the commission of a severe injustice or series of injustices against persons, communities, or racial and ethnic groups. We note the following 3 steps as necessary for the successful implementation of retrospective justice. Step 1, acknowledge an offense. Friends need to publicly acknowledge that Quakers were slave owners, and though many were abolitionists, many other Quakers supported the transatlantic slave trade, as well as chattel slavery, white supremacy, and economic exploitation. Step number 2, commit to truth-telling. We must create a clear historical record of events and properly institutionalize our history so that we do not forget. Our ministry praises several examples of institutionalized truth-telling, including the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg, South Africa, the Museum of Black Civilization in Dakar, Senegal, the International Slavery Museum in Liverpool, UK, and the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Step number 3, make amends in the present. We must go beyond just financial reparations and offer social, psychological, cultural, spiritual, and political rehabilitation and healing. African-American friend Bide Rustin sums it up, and I quote, "I fail to see how the Negro freedom movement can be victorious in the absence of radical programs for full employment, abolition of slums, the reconstruction of our educational system, new definitions of work and leisure. Adding up the cost of such programs, we can only conclude that we are talking about a refashioning of our political economy. How might this look in the 21st century? For inspiration, let us turn to a plan of reparatory justice first proposed by the States of the Caribbean Community, or CARICOM, in 2013. The 10-point plan challenges Western nations to make amends for chattel slavery by not only paying reparations, but by committing to programs addressing public health and education, repatriating stolen art and cultural artifacts, and canceling national debt. We conclude that any effort to make amends must center the voices of the victims and their descendants, because too often it is those with financial resources who get to define what atonement means. Question number 2, how can we use retrospective justice to address historical injustices? To answer this question, we will cite examples of past injustices from Kenya, South Africa, and the United States of America. that have shaped the experiences of people of African descent, both friends and non-friends, across the past 3 centuries. Though Kenya is now home to over 100,000 indigenous Kenyan Quakers, how many are aware of the British military's massacre of over 11,000 indigenous Kenyans during the Mau Mau Rebellion? The roots of this mass murder can be traced back to vicious British settler colonialism, which used the strategy of divide and rule to subjugate the African people and conquer them. British settlers raised pre-colonial societies to seize and partition Kenyan land, splitting apart indigenous communities and creating interethnic tensions that still prevail today. The colonization of South Africa by the Dutch, followed by the British, saw the same massive repression, deprivation, and dispossession of land and rights of indigenous people. From the 1960s to the early 1980s, the apartheid government forcibly relocated over 3.5 million indigenous South Africans to Bantustans. Ethnically segregated, impoverished reserves, policed by autocratic puppet leaders. Since the end of USA chattel slavery in 1865, African Americans have continued to endure various forms of exploitation, degradation, and humiliation. Quakers who are looking to implement development programs must first understand the nature of the past injustices they are trying to address. This is necessary in order to clearly distinguish ordinary development from what we mean when we talk about retrospective justice. Query number 3, why should Quakers take action now in using retrospective justice to heal historical injustice? Reason number 1, justice. To define the Quaker testimony of justice, we turn to British friend Adam Curl, who describes justice as having a dual meaning. One, spiritual, righteousness, the observance of the divine law. The other, temporal, fairness, righteous dealing. Our ministry challenges friends to place the justice testimony not only on the front burner, but front and center within Quakerism by engaging in this important work. Reason number 2, truth. Like justice, truth and integrity are at the root of Quakerism. So much so that an early name for Quakers was the Friends of Truth. We must work to correct misinformation and disinformation so that we might gain a more accurate understanding of the roots of the issues that we want to resolve. Reason number 3, reputation, influence, and expectations. Since the publication of Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1852, USA Quakers have been counted among history's most dedicated abolitionists. I question whether we fully deserve that reputation, but it is one that has endured. In fact, in 1947, the Friends Service Council in the UK and the American Friends Service Committee were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. So on behalf of all Quakers, for post-World War II peace, reconstruction, and recovery efforts. It is this reputation that we are expected to maintain and which I recommend we live up to. This is the time for concrete and urgent action to make reparation for the past and to atone. In conclusion, thank you to the Friends World Committee for consultation for inviting us to contribute to the songbook, to the study guide, and programming of this 2024 World Plenary Meeting. Thank you to my talented Black Quaker Project team, whose work behind the scenes made this presentation possible. And many thanks to all of you for giving us your attention today. Peace and blessings, friends.